Welcome back to the Supporting Physician Spouses podcast. I'm Kendra, and today we're continuing our Fair Play series with part 3 of 4. If you've been listening along, in episode 33, we introduced the heart of fair play and why it's so relevant for physician families, especially the way invisible labor builds resentment when responsibility is not truly shared. Then in episode 34, we went deeper into what it looks like to move toward a more pure marriage, not just in theory, but in real-life conversations and mindset shifts that help couples stop running the same tired loops. Today, we're bringing you a perspective you may not often hear. My guest is Dr. Adrian Harvey, also known as my husband. He is a practicing neurosurgeon. He's a father of 5, and today we're talking honestly about what it looks like to move from helping at home to complete ownership, even with a demanding schedule. We'll talk about the provider role, how time equality lands for physicians, and what changes when a husband becomes a true partner in home life, not just a guest in it. So let's get into it. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
All right. Let's get started. You listened to the last 2 episodes on Fair Play, the one that Katie and I did together?
Yes.
Excellent. Dr. Harvey happens to be our biggest fan, and he happens to be my husband, so that's a bonus. So let's do initial reactions first, okay? When you first heard about the concept of fair play, and maybe those weren't even the words that I necessarily used to describe it, what was your initial reaction?
I think the first time that I think you mentioned that was starting years ago, honestly. And I don't know if we talked about this in the first podcast, but you and I were driving along and you said something like, hey, I think something needs to change. I think we need to talk about a few things. And I remember pulling the car over and, what? We have a great marriage. What are you talking about? But over the last few years, as we've evolved and been able to iterate some things that we definitely had to work on, my first instinct then and even recently was a bit of a gut check again. Hey, I thought we were doing a great job, and that I think it was based on the roles that I felt we played. And so, yeah, a bit of a gut check. I think the idea I had about marriage, which was much more simple than yours, and it was 2 people who love each other, they like each other, they're attracted to one another, and they just get married, they have kids, and be true to one another and help where you can. But what I didn't recognize and came to recognize was all of the kind of grief and the strain that you were going through because you were trying so hard to shelter me because of my training and career and all the stress that can come with that. But it was putting a huge weight on you and a huge strain. Once I figured that out, and not only that, but that I was a big part of that and things could be better and needed to be better, that I was highly motivated to figure that out and do what needed to be done. I've always been raised to treat you as well as possible, but when I realized that there was much more to that and perhaps even better what that could do for us, it was almost exciting to me, and I needed to do it.
I don't remember us having an explicit conversation. It really has been more of an evolution.
Definitely.
So I think I remember maybe even going on probably 10 years approximately is when I first discovered Dr. Jennifer Finlayson-Fife.
Uh-huh.
And I remember having conversations about that. And some of those initial conversations were typically around intimacy, which is easy to get your partner on board.
That's true. Most men's ears perk up.
Yeah, when you're talking about that, then there's a little more willingness to participate. But that was only one tiny piece of it. But I think it really has been an evolution that's been in progress for probably a decade. But that's not to say that it needs to take a decade.
No, again, I think it was you just saying something is not right here or something could be better. And very admittedly, you put much more time into that because I was, okay, hey, whatever. But as you discovered things, yeah, my eyes were opened as well.
Which brings us to an article that you read.
Yeah.
And that you were the first one, I think, to bring it to me.
Yeah.
as we were having some of these discussions, and it was about modern marriage and this peer type of marriage that is built more on friendship and equality and really valuing each other in different ways beyond the roles that we play. And in that article, it did suggest that women often carry the responsibility and the vision for what a marriage can be. And so I would say that was probably true for us. You weren't the one taking the
No,
lead
I
in
wasn't.
that aspect.
I wasn't.
I was like, I think there is something more here. And the only reason that I knew that there was something more available is because I was listening to sources who were sharing concrete examples and research that says, yes, this is actually available. And I think that's true in lots of things with life, is that you don't know what's available to you until you actually see it somewhere else. And then once you see it, it's that's what I want too.
You can't unsee it either.
Yeah. So I guess my question around that is, when we started having these conversations about what was really possible for a marriage, and particularly what was possible for our marriage, did any of it feel like pressure or critique?
Definitely. I think it was, you're not doing a good enough job. Talking like you said that to me.
Did I say those words?
No.
Okay.
The way I took it.
Those were not the words I said, but those were.
No, that's what I felt. That's what I felt is, hey, and that was part of my own insecurities, which are pretty strong. And so I had to man up, so to speak, and say, yeah, you know what? You're right. There are things that I need to do better and roles that I need to take on and responsibility that I need to be given. And yeah, that's what we're talking about and that's been life-changing and marriage-changing for me and for us.
Yeah.
I feel, at least.
No, ditto. And so that kind of covers that how we got here portion.
Yeah.
So let's talk about maybe the biggest mindset hurdles, especially for a physician. And one of those is thinking about the provider role, because I think that's one of the things you prided yourself on. You're like, I provide really well.
Yeah.
Well, I can give myself a pat on the back. I'm doing a great job. But the article mentioned that's something that men specifically can get trapped in. It's just that's their role and they do it really well. And so therefore, they're doing a great job.
Yeah, I think, and it may or may not have to do with my occupation, probably does, definitely adds to it. But I think I did have the more traditional image of marriage in that I was the breadwinner. You took care of the family and the home, and I helped out when I could. But yeah, that was definitely my mindset. And so, yeah, when I would go to work and work hard and be tired, and I don't think I ever consciously just came home and said, hey, honey, whatever. But I also do remember that, for example, I would just say, I'd go to the gym and on my way to work, home from work, or I would go for a run or something. And granted, I tried to take the kids, but I still remember thinking back, wait a second, maybe she needs some time too, and some time to release and get away from the kids. And so, yeah.
This is going to be a great conversation because we've talked a lot about how language matters. Like you and I have had this conversation.
Absolutely.
Katie and I have had this conversation, and how the phrase, what can I help you with?
Yeah.
How that has sometimes been like a dagger, or maybe in a different sense, it's kind of opened our eyes up to what does that exactly mean? So maybe we can talk a little bit about the conversations that we've had around language and the language that we use in our home to not perpetuate the idea that this is mom's job.
Yeah.
And we help mom.
Yeah. No, I think you just said it in that it depends on, you have to, let me back up. It depends on what you want in marriage. If you just want someone to be there, maybe go on a date with, and I mean, you have to bring up sex, things like that, you're going to have a pretty shallow marriage, most likely. But if you want a marriage that has true partnership and companionship and friendship and depth and intimacy in all forms, you have to do things differently. At first it was like, oh, what can I help you with? In other words, again, that traditional role of, hey, you're the homemaker. I'm home. So, hey, yeah, what can I do to help you? Versus the mind shift. And it's a huge paradigm shift of there is this pool of responsibility and tasks and things that need to get done in our own lives and in our marriage and in the family. And that should be divided up as equitably as possible. And the rewards of that are huge. There is some sacrifice for sure. And we can talk about that, but the rewards are immense for that. And not only that, but the need for that, if you truly do want that marriage that's a companionship, it's vital.
So I've recently heard this phrase, tolerably unhappy together.
Yeah.
That is not the type of relationship that I was shooting for.
No.
And at sometimes, I think it did feel like that. We were just
For sure.
tolerably unhappy together. And is this really?
Well, I would say I was happy.
Okay.
And that's part of that model, that it's really good for men to go work and then come home and have no responsibility, where you work in the home, for the home, you work in your career, and then you're still working when I come home. And yeah.
I think it's also interesting as we can talk about this, the language, the help. We've even taken that beyond just us. Like, we try not to use that word, what can I help you with? But even bringing that into like our family. So our children, it's not what, please help mom do this would really help mom out, really paying attention to the types of words that we're using. And we're going to give one other example. We noticed this in relationship to the vehicles that we drive.
Yeah.
And talking about them not in terms of mom's car or dad's car, but either referring to the make and model of the car or the purpose of the car. Instead of, for a long time, I drove a minivan. Is that the car that I wanted to be driving? Not necessarily, but it's by default the one that I had. And so mom's car was this old minivan, and dad had some pretty sweet cars.
Yeah.
And so there is a level of disparity that we didn't want showing up. And so just learning how to rephrase certain things so it's not mom's car or dad's car, but this is the family car that we take when we go together as a family. And this is the car that people take when they go by themselves. And this is the car that we drive for fun. Being able to let language do some of this for us. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this was really big on Instagram, we've been talking a lot about all time is valued equally. And not only in fair play, but also in this article that we'll reference in our show notes, it talks about all time being valued equally. And as a physician, how hard was that concept to accept that your time was no more valuable than my time was?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. I don't think I've ever felt myself at least superior to you being a physician. Yeah, you were put on a pedestal for sure. And you're made to feel very important. And you can take that as far as you want. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'd say to that.
Do you think you ever held that assumption?
That my time was more valuable than yours?
Yeah.
I think if I was nailed to a wall and said, okay, whose time is more valuable? Life is about security, and I am the breadwinner. And so I guess you could argue that, but I don't know that I went around flouting that and saying, holding that against you or anything. I don't think.
I don't think you did, but if I'm being honest, I would say that I did, that there was some inherent belief that your time actually was more valuable. And we've talked a little bit, you and I together, about protecting the golden goose.
Yeah.
It's, in this particular case, he would be the golden goose. He lays the golden eggs.
Yeah.
And so really protecting that. And I was given some advice that was to that extent, like, you have to protect the person who is funding your life. And I agree with that to some extent, but at the same time, it has to go both ways. I would say that both of us, in order to make our family successful, we are both golden gooses that have needs and things that need to be expressed and fulfilled in order to show up as the best version of ourselves for our marriage, for our individual pursuits, and then also for our children. That
for sure
you can't have one golden goose. Or if there is a golden goose, it should be the relationship together.
Yeah, I agree.
So that wasn't really a difficult concept for you to get behind.
No, I don't think so. Okay. Yeah, I don't think so.
All right. So in Fair Play, they talk specifically about complete ownership, how you own something completely. And a lot of times, couples that are in marriages that haven't done a deep dive into what it actually takes to run a family and paid attention to, like we've talked about, the cards, and specifically, what does it mean to own a card? What does ownership look like from conception to remembering all of the things to execution and planning and all of that.
Yeah.
So what does conception and completion, ownership, all of it really mean with your life? You're a neurosurgeon. We've talked about the number of hours that you work, a typical week. What did that look like in our family?
I think to me it means that I do as much as I absolutely can in what needs to be done. And I think that can be a fair amount. My schedule's crazy and I work maybe some longer hours, and I want to contribute as much as I can to what needs to be done in the family, the household, and us. And there's things that I'm naturally inclined towards or good at, and I'll take those on. And I recognize how a to-do list can just be such a nagging thing on your mind that owning that, you got to do it. You got to realize that if the dishes aren't done at 10 o'clock at night, you got to get them done if you're owning the kitchen. And that may mean that you're tired. And many times I've done the dishes when I'm tired. But, and I think also just there's got to be dialogue. We've got to continually talk of, hey, how are we doing? Do we feel like we're both shouldering the responsibility as much as we both can, so that there's not that feeling of resentment, and the flip side, that there is a feeling of working hard together for the same purpose.
I will say, since you brought up dishes, this has always been, I hate doing dishes. I absolutely. He knew that when we got married. And so you've always been really taking care of the dishes. And I remember sometimes, especially when you were working like consecutive days in a row, and the dishes did pile up.
Yeah.
We were just waiting for you. But we just recently got back from vacation. And so maybe let's talk a little bit about how that is certainly one of the things that you completely take on.
Oh, vacations.
All things travel.
Oh, yeah. I love to travel. I've learned that having something to look forward to is huge for me, and all the details to think about that gives me something of a respite and something of a step off from the grind. And not only that, but our kids love to go, obviously. Who wouldn't? And so I like taking that on. And I've also learned what you like and what really brings you joy and relief. And it's not hard. It's not hard. So yeah, I planned our last vacation. And
how many of our last vacations have
most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably, if we were honestly to go back and look at all of them, I think probably all of them. I think I did one the time we went to Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. That was fun.
I don't know, 12 years ago
or
more.
Lake Geneva. Yeah. It was 2009.
2009 is the last time I planned a trip. And that was just for the two of us. But since then, you take all of them. Like,
glad
where to go, when to go, all of the details.
Yeah.
And the kids were joking this last summer. We went on a vacation together as a family, and it was about the time that there was a trend going around on Instagram where one of the person would say, "Hi, I'm Adrian, and I booked the hotel," and the other person would say, "Hi, I'm Kendra."
Nice show job.
We laughed about it, but it was entirely true, and our children know that. Let's keep using that as an example, because I think one of the important parts to recognize in the Fair Play system, so travel is obviously like your card, is that for the person who doesn't own that card to not complain and to not tell them how to do it, and it doesn't happen very often. But there have been sometimes I'm like, oh, it's best if first I don't know how much it costs. That's good.
Yeah.
If I just don't know. And I think there's only been like one time I'm like, this is a hole.
That we stayed in or something.
But to keep your opinions to yourself and to let somebody just own it. And it's a small price to pay, considering I didn't have to plan anything. I really just get not told. We discuss dates and we discuss places, but as far as the responsibility for getting it all done, I show up, and it is absolutely lovely. But I think that also speaks to the benefit of not having complete responsibility for the entire mental load of a family. Is that's just one instance of several that I don't have to think about. And that's something that you can do easily on your schedule if it's not dependent on time.
It's in clinic when I'm in between patients or something, I can look at something, or in between surgeries or something like that. Yeah.
And if we waited for me to do it, how often would we go on vacation?
Never. It wouldn't happen.
I don't enjoy it
Yeah.
at all. And so this is just an example of one way that cards could help utilize the skills and talents of one person and relieve the mental load from another. And again, that's only one card of many that you hold for us. So I appreciate it.
Sure. And it's just an attitude too. You just have to just look around. I will say one thing I struggle with, and we've talked about this, but you are home more than I am. And so you tend to just have eyes consciously or subconsciously on what's going on. And so I've learned that it's okay to say, hey, listen, what needs to be done? Not, again, the language of what can I help you with? It's what needs to be done. What can I do? And that's out of all sincerity that, hey, if there's something that needs to be done, I'll be glad to do it. And then just keeping my eyes open again with the kids, with us, with the house, whatever else. It's just a constant mentality of, okay, what needs to be done?
Yeah. So what would you say to other high-earning professionals with busy, demanding jobs who think that they don't have time for any type of domestic ownership in their home?
Oh, boy. That's a loaded question.
Probably.
There may be times that are like that. Number one, there needs to be a huge amount of communication between you and your spouse as to, hey, this is simply what is required. And do we want to do this? Number one. I remember having a conversation with you. Should we do neurosurgery or not? And so that they at least are part of that. However, the second thing I would say is in those busy years that when you're home and you do your best to just do little things, I think that'll mean a whole lot to your spouse if you're at least trying to do whatever you can. Maybe one load of laundry or just simply taking out the trash, do it. Past that, I think it's just what you want. There's benefits and there's sacrifices that come with a pure tight marriage, a companionship, a teamwork tight marriage. But you got to ask yourself the question, what do I want? What type of a marriage do I want? And if you want that deep companionship and friendship and all the other rewards that come with that, then maybe you need to work less or in a job that isn't going to require as much, or at the very least when you're home. I don't know. That's what I'd probably tell them. Yeah.
And not letting whatever your outside pursuits are, I'm going to use the word steal, but that's not maybe the word I'm looking for, steal from the time or space available from your partner, to just be thinking about that. Okay, if this is what I'm going to do, how can I make sure that my partner has the resources and the time to be able to do what she or he would like as well? And so that's part of the communication. And I would say, even during residency, yes, we did have that conversation about whether or not you should pursue neurosurgery. And we even had that conversation like several times after you had already
Yes, I remember.
Neurosurgery. And I think what may have made a difference had we known and implemented some of these things during residency, like it is possible.
Yeah.
Like the possibility exists. It's like when you know better, you do better. And there are things that we certainly could have done better during those years. And one of those things obviously being that I definitely valued your time and protected you and your resources, probably to the detriment of my own. And that was just something I was naturally good at. For ignoring the things that I needed or the things that would help me lead a more fulfilled life and have a more fulfilled relationship. So.
Yeah, for sure. There's a finite amount of time and you just have to determine how you're going to spend that. And you do need the break. That's definitely true. But yeah.
Okay, so this takes us into another topic. We're going to talk about romance. This article also talks about how pure marriage couples who are dedicated to being a couple over being a family, like how do you prioritize your marriage above all else?
Yeah.
And maybe the better question is, do you think we do a good job of prioritizing our marriage above work, above responsibilities, above our family?
Could we do better? I'm sure. One of the things that we've done is just simpler, like once a month or so, we just go on a little staycation, just some local hotel and just chill and sleep. And
I'm going to interject here too, because this is a card that he holds entirely.
Yeah.
I'm not involved in that.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
He tells me when. He says, are you available on this date? I say yes. And he plans the rest of it. And so that has worked for us, is for him to hold responsibility for all of that, and he knocks it out of the park.
Thank you.
You do a good job.
So the one thing where that comes from is, we haven't always done that, right?
No, we have not.
So is that you should continue to court even during marriage. And I think you and I talked about this several years ago, that we didn't date very much. And it's so I've taken that on. Okay. Yep. You're right. We need to go spend time together and alone from the kids to just be able to be close together, to talk and to decompress and be away from the stress that comes and from the familial sense of the kids. And that does bring, I think that does bring romance. I think that's part of it.
Yeah. All right. So I'm asking this question not knowing the answer, and maybe I don't have a response either, but how do we maintain romance and connection when we're both really busy? You're busier than I am, we'll be honest, but
I think several things. I think number one, men, we need to recognize we tend to be pretty straightforward, and what romance means to us is probably different than what it means to you. And what brings on physical intimacy, just sex, things like that. I think men, that's not hard for us. Women, I think it requires a feeling of security. It feels a feeling of closeness, of friendship, and trust and love. And that's something you have to work on, and that's huge. And that comes with the principles we've talked about. But in regards to other things in a busy lifestyle, I think texting throughout the day, it doesn't have to be mushy or anything like that, but it's just, I don't know. I just try to say, hey, how's your day going? Here's what's happening with mine. And then one thing we do is we have time every night, whether it's 10 minutes or an hour or whatever, we try to talk, but also watch something, some series or something like that, or some movie. And then again, we just have to make time to go out. It costs us to go out. It costs us to go on vacations. But that's just...
It's an investment.
It's an investment.
Yeah. So in regards to like the texting, who initiates texts more often?
Here's going to answer that question. Yeah, it's me. And it's me. And actually, I've learned to not expect an answer. Because to me, my phone is my pager and I answer text immediately, but not everybody does.
And I think from my perspective, it works better that way because my schedule is certainly more flexible.
Yeah. And you're not carrying your phone around either.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do. You're the one who initiates.
Yeah.
Text to check in and see how you are. I appreciate that because if I do it, I don't.
Yeah. Or just send flowers.
Yeah.
Or certain things. There's things you can do.
There's a time and a place for flowers. For sure. And we figured out when the right time to send flowers was hot.
Yeah, it's true.
So there is a quick story there that I'll share. When we were in residency, he would often buy me flowers. Not often. It was just a couple of times because I was like,
you get ticked off because I'm spending money on you.
It defeated the purpose. It's like, you did this kind of thing, and now I got to go find $75 in our budget that we did not have. But we're beyond that now, thankfully, and you can buy flowers. And
I have my bake sales and flower washes, and
it's all good. So then what do you think is the biggest benefit you've seen from moving towards this model of whether you call it peer marriage or the concepts that they talk in fair play, where you're making your relationship a little more equitable?
I think I've just enjoyed, with you, for sure, just a deeper friendship. And it's a wonderful feeling to work together towards something and see success. And I think our relationship has grown hugely. Everything about it has grown. I remember going on vacations with you probably 8-10 years ago, something like that. It was just like we could never get past a superficial discussion. Whereas now we talk about ideas and things, and more than just who's going to get the groceries or what needs to be done, just from the pragmatic standpoint. And it's you and I that are going to be together for a long time, hopefully. And so that's good. That's probably the best thing to come out of it.
This is my last question for you, because I certainly don't want anyone to get the impression that it just all came easily. And that if you read this one book, or if you just do this one thing, that you too can have the type of partnership that's been described in the book and in the article and what we're working towards. What type of investment have you had to make in learning or being open to, just what are some of the things that you've...
Yeah, I remember when you and I were starting to we were on shaky ground and knew something had to change. I remember as I started reading articles or books or even going to counseling or whatever, somebody used the term and embrace the suck, that this really sucks for a while. And it did. Our relationship was very strained. And at best, sometimes, I don't think we were ever not hospitable, but it was very difficult. And you just have to stick to your guns and look in the mirror and say, what am I not doing that I need to as a husband and a person too, but as a husband, and go forward with that and just trust in yourself that you're enough, respect yourself. Nobody's going to respect you if you don't respect yourself. And yeah, just moving forward with that and just having the attitude, I'm going to do whatever needs to be done, because I do feel that there's a tremendous amount of promise here and that I really like you and love you, obviously. And then, man, it's great when you start to see the benefits of that, and it's onward and upward from here. And so I guess what I'm saying is I appreciate from you the higher standard that you held us to, and that I had to, I think both of us, but that I had to work towards for sure through, literally tears, agony, suck, whatever you want to call it, prayer, thought, loss of sleep, however you want to state that. But man, it's been worth it.
Okay, that isn't to deter anybody from embarking on this endeavor, for sure.
Yeah.
Because the benefits to both of us individually, as a couple, and then subsequently as a family, have been definitely worth the suck. But nothing gets better until things get better.
Yeah.
All right. Any parting words you'd like to leave, or anything you would tell other physician spouses?
It's worth it. It really is.
Yeah.
You'll feel better as a person. You'll feel better as a couple. And it would highly surprise me if all kinds of different aspects in your marriage didn't get better, and with your kids, and even your career, because the same lessons that you learn in a relationship are relationships that will help you in your career with patients and other people that you work with. But stick to it, believe in yourself, get the help that you need to, and it's definitely worth it.
Adrian, thank you for being here and for being willing to have this conversation out loud. I know that it matters. And to our listeners, thank you for spending your time with us. If this episode resonated, would you take a moment to follow the show and leave a review? It truly helps other physician spouses find this podcast. You can also connect with us on Instagram at Supporting Physician Spouses. We love hearing what's landing for you and what you want more of. And don't miss the next episode, where Katie and Talon Harris share their own experiences with fair play, what worked, what was hard, and what it changed for them as a couple in residency life. We'll see you next time on Supporting Physician Spouses.